Hello, and welcome to our first Spartan podcast here at BSTN. Today is Thursday, November 5th. I'm Max Rassega, joined with Superintendent Tim Saxton and Principal Cindy Fernback. Thank you both for being here.
Glad to be here.
So we're going to be heading into our second 9 weeks here at BHS, and this school year has been like no other. So can you tell me both a little bit about what's been the most challenging thing so far?
Obviously, the start, to get school off the ground, that was the most challenging. We went through a whole process, probably started back late May, June, July, trying to figure out, are we going full remote, we going in person, we going hybrid, how are we offering this? So that probably took a good solid 2 months to figure out how to offer the proper instructional delivery program. And just go back to our goal. Our goal was we wanted to offer a product for both the parents who wanted to choose their kids at home for whatever reason, and the parents that chose to send their child to school. We wanted to make sure it was engaging, authentic, high quality, and we truly believed that in order to accomplish that, our teachers needed to do both. So those were our goals, and really after that, the work was to figure out how that would look in the detail. So to get the year started, that was the most challenging, and after that would be how would the logistics work once kids came in, and what kind of safety measures did we need in place to make sure students and staff were safe.
Yeah, I would agree 100% about the getting started part, but for me, the biggest challenge was managing all the different, feelings that people had about getting started. I mean, the school's in an unusual position in that you have some people who think that the virus is not real and it's fake, and then you have a group of people who feel that it's extremely dangerous and real. You have some teachers who fall into both of those camps too, students, and so we're trying to create an environment that is okay with everyone and makes everyone feel safe, and keeps teachers feeling safe and students, and I think that balancing all those different needs and wants for our community is a big challenge.
So both on points that both of you just made about online school and kids, whether they think it's dangerous or they don't think of anything at all. Because I know myself that I've had thoughts of do I want to go online? Do I want to do this? And it's tough because it's I could go online if I want to, but it could be awfully challenging because of the classes that I've taken. And I know, because you could be scared about if you get the virus or not, which brings me to my next point, contact tracing. Because I know that we are having some students test positive, and can you guys tell me just a little bit about how you guys managed to trace back everybody and quarantine specific kids?
Well, it's a group project. I mean, for us, when we get a positive test result, it's all hands on deck. We pull out all the seating charts that teachers have provided us with, and then it's literally a process of going through and looking at that 6-foot swath around the positive student, and then one by one really making contacts with each of those students, sending out letters, contacting the health department. It's a pretty long process, but I think it's evidence that it's working. I mean, the fact that we're quarantining kids may seem unsettling, and it does in some ways create anxiety, but I think it's evidence of a process that is in place and is proving to be effective for the school.
A couple things I want to say. I don't think I've ever heard of a 6-foot swath.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. No, I'd say radius, and you can see former English teacher, former math teacher.
Yeah.
But swath, I'm growing today. I learned a new word. I'm going to use that. I like that.
Please do.
But to build off of that, I do think, when a student gets quarantined or a parent hears that their child, it does. It almost feel a little guilty, like there's something wrong. It's not. It's all about safety. And the goal of contact tracing doesn't mean anyone's guilty or wasn't showing best practices. It's about the fact that we're just trying to keep people safe, and we're trying to reduce spread. And quarantine people, just basically, that's what it's doing. It's stopping spread. Obviously we can see what's going on in the community. Whatever, as you have community spread, your schools are going to reflect that. So we're all in this together to slow the spread down and get those numbers, instead of rising, to level off and then to decrease.
So as we still talk about being at home, just yesterday we had our first Learn at Home Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice little break in the week. Have you guys been getting any positive, negative feedback from parents or other students?
Well, I've been getting a ton of positive feedback from teachers. I mean, my teachers were as quiet as can be in their rooms, doors shut with signs up saying, don't knock, I'm filming, and teachers have come by today and just said that they really feel that they're getting the balance that they needed for their efforts to be able to maintain that sort of dual instructional platform. So they seem very happy. I think the students had a little bit of anxiety about what it was going to look like and how do I sign on. But a couple of the students that did my announcements that I talked to this morning, they said it was easy squeezy, no problem. So I know parents had a little bit of anxiety about it. But the point I've made to the parents who called and expressed, unhappiness with it is that we're doing everything we can to maintain the awesome dual platform that teachers have created. If we don't give teachers the time to maintain it, we can't sustain it long term, and I know Mr. Saxton understands that.
Go back to what Mrs. Fernback said. I also have received a lot of feedback from our staff, and what I like to hear, the feedback's not like, thank you for giving me the day off. That's not what this was about. The feedback I've got is, thank you. I was able to record 3 digital lessons. I was able to prepare this lesson for next week. I am now caught up, and I think it's investing. It seems like a short-term solution, but really this was an investment back into our staff. The concern was the instructional quality and effectiveness for both in-person and remote truly was about to collapse. And I think a lot of people thought this was an adult decision, this was good for adults, but really all our decisions are for kids. This was for kids. It may not seem like that because it's indirect, but really we had to improve the health, both the physical and mental health of our staff so they can provide quality instruction, which directly then impacts our students. And that's, I think you may not have seen it yesterday, but you're going to see in the next couple of days. I guarantee when you come back into class or the remote learners, they're going to see a little better level of instruction because we were getting worn down. Now we sharpened the sword, and now I think you're going to see a higher quality, and that's why it was needed. And I know it's frustrating for parents because they think maybe, we had 2 weeks off, we have a shortened hour, and these things I hear from all grades. But really, they're concerned, and I appreciate it and respect it because they're truly investing in their child's education. They feel like their child's losing out. And it, on the surface, does appear like that would happen, but when you dig deeper and see the foundation, we've lifted the foundation, which is going to improve instruction. It's going to be higher quality. In essence, the child will be further along because we've re-energized our teaching staff, and that will pay dividends. It'll take a couple days and some weeks to see, but it will pay off.
And the other thing too, Max, is that I think our in-person students need that little tiptoe into what it is to be remote. We're doing everything we can to keep the building open. We are not having conversations about shutting down the building. We want to keep the building open. But we don't know if DeWine's going to come on TV today at 2 o'clock and say, we're shutting the schools down. We have no idea what's going to come. So giving our kids that little taste of remote, I think with the training wheel of Monday, Tuesday in the beginning and Thursday, Friday to catch at the end, that's a good experience for the kids too.
Yeah, I get that. So speaking of not wanting to shut down at all, with each day having more and more cases that show up and it just keeps skyrocketing, is there like a certain number or situation in which we hit this peak of numbers that we're going to automatically have to close down?
That's a great question. And ironically, I think it was on Friday, after probably about 3-4 straight days of contact tracing, I looked at Principal Fernback's face. She was exhausted. Mm-hmm. And I asked her, I said, how bad is it? How many cases do we have? And are we able to run our school? And you could tell, it has an impact. We got on the phone with the local health director, Ryan Teacack, and Jake, who works with the schools who do all the contact tracing. And I talked to him. I said, look, you're aware of the number of cases in the high school. I need some wisdom here, I need some advice. At what point would you advise us to maybe quarantine or shut down the building for short term? And they take a look at the number of students quarantined, and they take a look at the number of quarantines to see if those are turning into positive cases. They're not, which indicates that there is not spread or very minor spread within the building, that the spread seems to be outside the building. And again, I'm not putting blame on parents, but they're looking at it from a science point of view. And so if you close the building at this point, because there is no internal spread, or very little, that really you're pushing kids outside where the spread is. Now, if we see internal spread, and we look at this closely daily, if we see internal spread and we see that kids are are becoming positive cases because what's happening inside the building, yes, it's time to shut the building down for 7 or 14 days, clean thoroughly again and again, and just break that have a little gap to break that trend. But at this point, that's not happening. So the number of contacts and the number of positive cases at this point is not an indicator to close a building or a district. If the number of adults who supervise students that become positive or quarantine causes us to be ineffective or have an unsafe environment because we can't properly supervise students, then yes, we may have to close the building for a short period of time till we get that number of adults needed back. So we look at that daily. Is it a possibility? It's always a possibility, but those are the things that we're looking at, and those are the factors that drive whether or not we make that decision. So if it were to happen, it'd probably be a building, and it would either be because, again, just in summary, because we've seen internal spread and we need to break that cycle, or we don't have proper supervision and we need to close for a while till we have the number of adults that we need. For a district to shut down, that would have to come from Governor DeWine. That would be, a state mandate.
And he's being nice, because when he said, "What do you think we should do?" I was exhausted, and I said, "I think we need to shut this down." So he's being kind. That was the kind of day that I had on Friday. But 2 minutes later, as we continued talking, I said, and I'm torn, because there are days where I feel like, let's just shut this down for 2 weeks and see if things calm down. But on the other hand, I want the building open. If there's only 20 kids who want to come to school, I want the building open for those 20 kids, because remote is not for all kids. I mean, remote education can be very challenging, and you have to have a very strong sense of self-control, self-motivation, and for all teenagers, that's not the best thing. So, as we talked through it, I said, I'll feel better on Monday after I get a little weekend to rest, but he's being kind when saying that, we talked it through calmly, because I really had a day on Friday.
Back to the external contact that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We just made it through our fall sports season.
Sure.
Woohoo!
And we made it pretty much all the way through. So what are your guys' thoughts about our winter sports?
Obviously, that guidance really comes from the Ohio High School Athletic Association, just like they guide us in fall sports. Mm-hmm. Those are big decisions, and obviously there are the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the individual sport associations. There's different associations for wrestling and for basketball, for swimming, for the different sports that specialize in those areas. And they've made specific recommendations, but everything we've received is we're moving forward with the same type of safety protocols we had in place for the outdoor. Obviously, the crowds will be limited. There will be certain protocols in place for social distancing, mask when appropriate, and that's defined according to the sport. But they are moving forward. If people know me long enough know I have football in my background, player, coach, and I have a passion for football. I love Friday nights. I love it. And I really thought in July there was no way. There was no way we were going to be able to have a fall sports season when you watch what was happening in the Big Ten. But we made it. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. Now, it was a different experience. Friday night is not just about football. It's about elephant ears and fair fries, the marching band, the cheerleaders, the crowds there. It's the whole thing. VSTN doing replays. Honestly, it's and pieces of that were pulled out. So it was like a mini light version. Just didn't have that same feel. I was happy our kids got to play. Especially for our seniors who this was their last year. Mm-hmm. I was glad that our band got the march and our cheerleaders got the cheer, and the TV crew got to do what they do the best. But wasn't the same, and I'm sure winter sports will be the same. They'll be able to get to play, which I think is great for the seniors. But it will be different. It will be a light version. So.
Yeah, I agree. I overheard a young girl in the cafeteria the other day. She made the comment, "I don't know what I'm going to do with my life." And I put the brakes on and stopped and said, "What are you talking about?" Well, here it's a young lady who's on the basketball team. And she was worried about, what's going to happen with the season. And I said the same thing he did about just how we went into football not thinking we'd get more than a couple games. And we ended up, having a very nice season. So I'm just as hopeful about winter sports. But I also believe we have to go into everything as seeing it as sacred. you know, whatever we get is sacred this year. I mean, if we get a basketball game, then we really have to be present in that moment with it, because everything is a little uncertain. So, you know, taking it one day at a time, whatever we can get out of winter sports, I think we just need to appreciate it and really enjoy it.
Good point. Very good point.
Well, I'd like to thank both of you for being here today. I'm Max Rassega for BSTN. Please join us on our next podcast, and stay healthy, Spartans.